Welcome to the Waffle Flower channel. Hi, it's Therese, and today we're going to be making a rectangle frame card using the Nesting Rectangles 2 die set from Waffle Flower Crafts. So this is just a great way to get more from your dies. There are dies out there, and actually Waffle Flower do have a great die where you can make a frame, but I just thought it'd be fun to try and use these particular dies and see if I could make my own frame for my card, and it worked really well. So what I've done is I've got a piece of cardstock that's bigger than the front or the finished size of my card. I've grabbed the largest frame, and I actually want to use this as a decorative piece. So you don't need to do any of this. I just wanted to add some details, and this has some gorgeous stitching line in it, as well as it's also going to give me a, instead of cutting, it's going to give me like a border. So I've run it through my Big Shot on tab 1 with the base plate and the die, then the cardstock, and then a rubber mat, and this stops the die from actually cutting. And then I just have a top plate on top and run it through. It's really easy to do. Now I've grabbed the third smallest die, and I am going to cut a window. So this is going to be sort of the center of my card where I'm going to put my images. And once I sort of took that out, I had a look at it, and I just thought it needed something more. So I came back in again and did some more debossing. So this is with the next larger die. I've held it in place with some low-tack tape, gone back to my embossing sandwich. So this is tab 1, base plate, die facing up, cardstock, rubber mat, and a top plate, and run that through. There's no pressure here, so if you're finding that you're feeling any pressure or it's hard, don't force your machine, because you might have the wrong sandwich. Double check your sandwich. And I think that looks much better with that second debossed sort of image. Now, I didn't get any footage of this without my head in it. I'm so sorry. So I actually haven't shown you much of it, but I've just put pencil marks on the edge of my cardstock where the lines of the largest die are, and that just gives me an idea about where the edge of my card is going to be, or my frame, my box. Now that's not actually where I'm going to score. I'm going to score about 4 millimeters each side of that line, and that's just going to help me create my frame, because that is where my card is going to fold. So this is the point, which is, for me, because this is going to cover the whole front of my card, this is going to be the edge of my card base. Well, it's going to sit around the edge of my card base. So to create the actual box measurement, I've actually doing a second score line, and this score line is going, and I just winged this. You could mark it out with a pencil, but I just went 1.5 measurements on my scoreboard, and that width there is how deep it's going to sit off the front of your card. So basically, to create this, you need to have 2 score lines around each side of the panel. When I did line up my die initially, I made sure that it was pretty, I didn't measure it, probably should have, but I did make sure that it was pretty straight on my piece of cardstock, so that when I made these score lines, everything was going to look in place, like it wasn't, like the center wasn't going to be on an angle or anything like that. So that is just something to consider as well. Now the 2 score lines that I've made, I'm just folding those inwards just to give them a little bit of memory. And the dies that you can get actually make this much easier, because I've never made this before, so you're learning with me here. But the dies that you get will help you sort of piece a frame together. I just wanted a really nice wide frame. I thought it would look really fun on a card. The next step I did was actually cut with my scissors on an angle from the corner right to where the edge of my card front, or the corner of my frame, was going to be, and then just kind of worked out how I was going to wing it. And if I did it again, I do it a little bit differently, and I kind of learned as I went along. So I did that. I did cut to each corner on around the whole design of the card. And then that way I figured I could fold in one of the edges and then fold a flap over the back. You'll see what I mean in a minute. So this is where I'm cutting the bit that's going to fold over the back. This is something I would change next time. I would cut this on a slight angle so that when I folded this back over, the edges don't show. I did just cut them off by hand afterwards, but it would have been easier to just put a slight angle on those so that when I folded that back, they wouldn't show on the front of the frame. I've got some fun foam here that I'm layering up just to help support the frame on the inside, and this, for me, with these measurements, I needed to use 2 pieces of fun foam, but obviously that's going to be affected depending on how wide you make your frame. And I am using score tape here today because I know it's got a nice strong hold. You could use the red line tape, and if you wanted, liquid glue would work. You would just need to hold it in place while it dried. Alright, so this is what I've decided, how I decided to do it. I folded the corners in and laid them on top of the actual score tape. I could have put the score tape on the corner before I laid it down, depending what would be easier for you, but I just found it easier this way. And I did make my fun foam a bit long there. Let's get that out of the road. And what I figured here was just easier to remove this tiny little triangle of cardstock, because that wasn't folding down very neatly. And by doing that, it meant that I wasn't fighting with any bits of cardstock at all over there. It just made a nicer, neater edge. So I did that on the other 3 corners. On the first one, I didn't work that one out early enough. This is where I used some more score tape just to hold everything in place. I figured I might as well give it a strong hold because it is going to be a fairly bulky card. It is something that I probably would not post unless I put it in a we have rigid mailers here, they're called, which are really great to post things in, and they don't cost much, you know, extra postage really. But maybe a good strong padded bag with some cardstock in it or cardboard in it might work as well. Probably best to be a hand delivered card though, I'd say, this one. And that's my finished frame. I did add score tape under each of the edges on the sides. I did forget to add that early on in the piece, but I did add some in just to hold the frame against all that foam that I added in. Right, now I decided to make a little scene on the inside for my frame. Well, it's not all going to be on the inside, but I've stamped out a balloon. This is from the Balloon Messages stamp set. The elephant comes from a new set which is called Jungle Birthday, and it's really cute. And I'm just using my teas to colour him in, some really simple Copic colouring here. And then because I have the coordinating dies for these images, I did just run them through my die cutting machine and cut them out. I have a piece of blue cardstock. It's kind of like almost that BG blue, you know, that really pretty BG blue. And I've stamped, this is a couple of the images from the Layered Marbles stamp set, and added some white layering marble, I should say, stamp set, and added some white embossing powder and made my clouds for the background. I just thought that was just something a little bit different and added some details to my scene. Got my ATG adhesive, and that's just going to hold that in place on the front of my top fold card. This card I've cut to fit the frame that I created, so it's exactly the same size as my frame. It would also look good, I think, to have the frame a little bit smaller and have it sort of sitting on the front of a card as well. I might try that next time, and I think I'll probably have an easier time making my frame. But it is fun. I do enjoy playing with paper. So now I've got some white twine. I've created my own little bow and added some glue dots because I find they have a really nice strong hold to hold everything in place, and then I can just attach my balloon in place, and I've got this just sitting behind the lid of the frame. I just wanted it to be sitting up off the base of the card. And the same with the elephant. I didn't want them to be sitting back in the seam. So with the elephant though, I did decide to actually sit the little fella out on the front of the frame. Just have his feet. Does the elephant have feet? I don't know. Can someone let me know? Do elephants have feet? I might have to look that one up. Anyway, they do walk around on something, don't they? The string I've just added with glue dot as well, and decided just to wrap that round his trunk. And then to hold everything in place, I've popped some more fun foam on the back and some score tape, and then I can just attach that to the front of my card. My sentiment today is from a set which is called Rock On, and this is actually a slightly curved sentiment, but because it's a clear stamp I could actually straighten it out and stamp it out with some new fishing pond, and just popping that up to go on the front of my card with some foam dots. And as a final element, I did decide to add an enamel dot just to the edge of the sentiment. And that's my finished card. Thanks so much for joining me here today at the Waffle Flower channel. There is so much more to see. For more product info, visit waffleflower.com. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram and Facebook for more creative ideas. We look forward to seeing you there. Bye bye.